It is always so hilarious to me when out of touch executives just yap. They talk about something that they have absolutely no clue about, and that is what is happening right now with this exec editor because they're saying that the character's popularity has more to do with play mechanics in Rivals than it does the characters themselves. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, we all know that Marvel Rivals is massively successful. There are millions of people who have downloaded it, who play it daily, and who are enjoying this game. And a big reason why it got so much attention initially is because of the IP. Marvel is a massive brand. Unfortunately, over the past couple of years, it's definitely tanked in popularity because of the awful movies and TV shows that have come out. They've tried to milk this franchise for all it's worth, and it just hasn't really paid off. But Marvel Rivals is doing something spectacular, which is bringing more attention to less mainstream characters. There are characters in this, like Emma Frost, for example, who you don't hear about within the broader MCU. And the comics have definitely not been super successful. We've also know that they are actually bringing back shelved lines like Marvel swimsuits, and they're putting some of those outfits in the game. We don't really know which characters are going to get them or which outfits are going to be in the game, but we do know that they are bringing them into the fray, which is really cool to see. But I think we all know that Marvel Rivals is massively successful and got a lot of attention initially because of the Marvel name and because of recognizable characters like Venom and Spider-Man and Iron Man and Thor, cool characters. But now we have this person coming out and completely misunderstanding the plot. So it says while Marvel Rivals may be opening the door for some of the publisher's lesser known characters to see some love, Marvel Comics executive editor Tom Brevoort says that a given hero's in-game popularity has no bearing on their comic book future because, unfortunately, the hero shooter's core player base has little interest in checking out its actual source material. I would agree to this to a certain extent because I do think that just comic popularity in general has tanked over the past couple of years. And while there are some people who play this game who would be interested in learning the characters' backstories, they just want to play the game and they see cool characters with cool outfits and fun abilities, and that's kind of the extent of the content they're going to consume. But I do think that doing things like bringing back lines such as Marvel swimsuits could potentially help them in the long run because you're putting more of the kind of comic book tie-in costumes into the game itself, and then you can add the lore, which does get people pretty interested. It says, though, as per usual, Brevoort offered his latest insight into Marvel Comics behind-the-scenes operations during a Q&A portion of the most recent Man with a Hat Substack block entry. He talks about a lot of different things, and even unfortunately for not only the fan who asked the said question, but also those hoping to see a potential comic book resurgence for characters such as Hela, Emma Frost, Penny Parker, or Adam Warlock, or in the case of Luna Snow, an initial comic book boom. Brevoort in turn explained that contrary to popular belief, he has seen little crossover between Marvel Rivals players and a demand for more comic books featuring a given hero, which is odd to me because if you look at some of the comic creators like J. Scott Campbell, for example, he has been selling exclusive Marvel Rival comic covers, and those sell out in minutes. Now, I understand he is extremely popular, but that also has to do with Marvel Rivals demand because you had characters like Luna and Squirrel Girl. But it goes on to talk about how I tend to think that popularity in Marvel Rivals likely has more to do with play mechanics than it does the characters themselves, which is to say that I haven't seen any major correlation between popularity in the game and a rise of interest in the character in print outside of maybe one or two outliers. So first of all, if you are seeing any more interest, that instantly disproves your point that you're trying to make, and that doesn't work in your favor because that means that Marvel Rivals is actually bringing attention to your comic books and to these characters. But second of all, I think that a major reason why people are interested in these characters truly and genuinely is because of the MCU and the popularity we have seen for Marvel since, 2008 when the MCU really kicked off. So I feel like they're not truly understanding the Marvel Rivals hype because you have a character who's initially announced. Yes, you hear about their mechanics, and that's really cool. And that is a big part of why people play those characters. But you also have to consider almost every single match I play, someone wants to play Iron Man because they have that love and nostalgia. It's not just the mechanics, it also has to do with the, yeah, just nostalgia that they have. Also, a big way that characters are marketed is, of course, the outfits, which is really fun to see. There are lots of them, but I feel like if they actually had writers doing specific Marvel rival comic lines, I think that you would see more of a boom for these characters and more interest. That said, he mentions we are planning to do something with Cloak and Dagger in the near future so that potential audience will have something to take a look at. You would think with the major success Marvel Rivals has seen, that they would be signing artists, signing writers. They would have a bunch of comic lines in the works. Like, they would be milking this for all they could because it is making so much money. We don't have exact numbers, but they have said that the game has been downloaded over 40 million times. They must be making a heck of a lot of money. I mean, in the first month of launch, they said that they made like $200 million. So I'm sure that at this point it's over 500 million, 600 million. They're making bank off of this game. So as they add more comic book characters, they should be doing specific tie-in comics. I personally think that what they should have done was they should have started basically a comic line where when every new character is introduced, they have an intro comic so that they are part of the bigger picture. So there's two lines basically going on. One is like every single character gets one intro comic, and then they're put into kind of the fray where there's another comic line where all of the characters are doing something. Maybe you have like Team A, which is out on a mission or going and saving the world, getting an item for the, last book. And then you have Team B doing something else. Like, they should have made this a big, giant event, in my opinion. I think that that would have made them a lot of money, but they really fumbled here. And it just goes to show that people really don't understand their audiences. I mean, we even heard the same thing back in 2024, where the Kung Fu Panda 4 co-director had said that Hollywood executives totally see the influence and impact anime has had on the world, but still think that audiences don't like these kind of stories. We do like these kind of stories. And in regards to Marvel Rivals, I do think there are a lot of people who don't want to go back to comics 20 or 30 or 40 years ago, but if you put out something now marketed specifically towards them, they would be interested. So you're saying that, oh, audiences don't want to buy the comics having to do with these characters, but I think that they would if you were creating new stories with them. I unfortunately don't trust a lot of the writers in the comic book industry right now, so that's a little bit tough, but I think that still you could sell it. And in regards to the Kung Fu Panda 4 situation, it's terrible that execs see the impact and the influence and ultimately the money that anime is making, but then they turn around and still say that, oh, audiences don't want these kind of stories, so they're not creating stories like that, when really they're just abandoning that audience or that subsection of customers. And this is not how you become successful. This is not how you make money. You have to give people what they want, and we're telling you exactly what we want. I mean, people are basically throwing it in your faces. People are begging for content having to do with some of these characters and anime themed stories and all of these different things, but executives just do not understand. Editors, in this case, do not understand. So it will be interesting to see what the general response to this is. I do think a lot of people are going to be pretty ticked off with the fact that Marvel has a way to make a lot of money and give people new, good, fun products again, but yet they don't understand what it is that people actually want or why this game is even at least partially successful. I think that the IP is 50%, and I think that the actual game itself is the other 50%, and that means that they have a lot of wiggle room in order to potentially make money, but they're losing out on that. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.